What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the FF Ballbusters podcast. My name is Will. That's my co-host Eric. And today we're going to be talking QB Superflex Dynasty rankings, but we're going to be including rookie quarterbacks and just where they fall into our tier list. But before we get into that, Eric, you got anything for the people?
Yeah, man, if you guys could just help us out a little bit, support us on the channel here. I think we're putting out a lot of great content as of late, and I think you guys will enjoy. So if you do, hit that like button, helps us out a ton. Also hit that subscribe button, and make sure to hit that notification bell as well, so that you can stay up to date with all of our latest videos and also engage with us. We can answer any of the questions that you have about this tier list, about any of our other previous videos, trade questions, whatever it is you want. Drop them down in the comments below. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. But yeah, with that, I'm ready to get into these QB rankings.
Absolutely. So we're going to go on over to Tier Maker. What you guys are seeing here is our pre-made tier list already with the guys who already the veterans who we have placed in this tier list and how we rank them. So this is our current updated tier list with how we believe these guys should be ranked. And we're going to insert the rookies in as we go along and just where we think they should fall at. But starting it off, Eric, where do you want to start at with this tier list?
Well, I say we should start at the top of the rookie rankings at least. So we'll go to Caleb Williams first here. I think I'm going to be moving him into tier 3, and I'm putting him right in the middle there between Joe Burrow and Anthony Richardson.
Okay, I like that placement. What's your reasoning behind that one right there?
Yeah, so, we're talking about one of the best quarterback prospects of all time, entering likely the best situation we've ever seen for a number one overall quarterback of all time. So the situation there is fantastic. I think his value is just so well insulated that even if he starts off, say, similarly to maybe Trevor Lawrence, early career Trevor Lawrence and what we saw there, I don't really think that he's going to drop too far beyond this current ranking that we have him at, but his upward mobility is clear as well. We just saw CJ Stroud do it last year, who went from being taken in like the middle of the first round of rookie drafts to being the 103 in startups in the matter of a year. So I think that Caleb Williams could easily find himself in that, tier 2, maybe even tier 1 of quarterbacks in pretty short order. And yeah, just, I talked about the situation. I talked about the talent that he has. I find it very difficult to find a probable situation where this doesn't go well for him.
No, I absolutely agree. He's stepping into an absolutely great situation with the Bears. There's not a typical, like you said, number one overall situation for a quarterback coming out of the draft. Also, just the fact that guys, keep in mind, like Eric said, this isn't a static list. This ebbs and flows every single time. Yeah. So there's a lot of chance that Caleb Williams could move up, and there's a possibility he could move up even into that tier 1 just based off of the hype that we've gotten off of him. But obviously, we're gonna have to see something from him before we can give him that kind of a nod. But like you said, the ceiling is kind of that high for this guy. He's one of the best QB prospects we've seen in a long time, and I think that sky's the limit, especially with that receiving core they've got over there and just the talent they have around him right now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We're talking Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, and they're improving that offensive line as well. We'll see what the coaching staff does and how that offense looks schematically. But yeah, it's just really hard to bet against him at this point. The only question that I have for you, in comparison to the other guys in this tier 2, because we're talking about opposite ends of the spectrum with Joe Burrow and Anthony Richardson. If you were in a situation where you were being offered Caleb Williams and you had a Joe Burrow or an Anthony Richardson, is that a 1-for-1 swap you're willing to make? Like, I guess I should have given you one or the other, but general thoughts on that topic.
So I guess I do kind of have to look at it from a one or the other type of situation. If it was Joe Burrow and I'm being offered a 1-for-1 swap and I have Caleb Williams, I'm probably going to keep Caleb Williams in that situation. But if it's Anthony Richardson, things definitely do get a little bit more interesting just because of that rushing floor and what he can provide. So it's tough because Caleb Williams really is smack dab in between these two guys in terms of how he plays and as a prospect, because I feel like he's got the passing ability, but he's also got that mobility as well, but he doesn't lean too heavy on either side. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if I had to choose, I would heavily consider a 1-for-1 Anthony Richardson, Caleb Williams swap, but Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams, I'm keeping Caleb there in that instance.
Yeah, and this is, again, we're talking rookies here specifically. If you guys want to talk about our vet rankings, I'm sure we can have another video, or again, hit us up in the comments about that.
Hmm.
Burrow seems like the safest asset just because of the longevity that he's going to have, the job security that he has, and what he's proven already in the NFL, the ability to get to the Super Bowl. Like he's going nowhere other than up. Like he's in a great situation.
Absolutely.
Richardson's only played 4 games, but I genuinely think he could be the QB1 in redraft this year. Like he could have a crazy season. So it's very different ends of the spectrum in terms of upside, downside, and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that Caleb is well within this range. Yeah, I guess I don't have too much to add on top of that, but I'm very interested to see how this pans out for this group in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And then taking a look at the next group of people. So the next prospect we got, obviously moving down the line, we're going with the second overall pick, Mr. Jayden Daniels, who went to the Washington Commanders. And we're looking at where he kind of falls in this tier list. And me and Eric kind of talked about this yesterday when we were putting everything together. And we're looking at a tier 5 for him, but we're looking at the top of tier 5 for him. So right in front of Brock Purdy and Trevor Lawrence, but behind guys like Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, and Jordan Love. Now, we're doing this just for the moment. Obviously, things can move around quite a bit. There's a lot of wiggle room for these guys. But when we're looking at guys like Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, obviously Justin Herbert's kind of considered one of the generational guys in this group. He's someone who can kind of make things happen no matter who's around him. And we're gonna have to see what happens this year with obviously the depleted wide receiver core they've got over there in Los Angeles. But we're not knocking Justin Herbert down right now. Kyler Murray tied to Marvin Harrison Jr. now. I think that kind of says enough right there. And Jordan Love obviously had a great end of the last season, and he showed a lot of promise. So can't quite put Jayden Daniels above him, but I think he does get the nod over guys like Brock Purdy and Trevor Lawrence with that rushing floor and just what he does provide outside of just throwing the ball, because Brock Purdy obviously has great weapons around him. Trevor Lawrence has great weapons around him as well, but Jayden Daniels provides that extra just edge in terms of being an elite rusher. So I think that this placement for him is good, but what do you think about Jayden Daniels here?
No, I completely agree with you. And in terms of him specifically, like I have some fairly serious concerns that Jayden Daniels might not pan out as an NFL quarterback, as I do with every quarterback not named Caleb Williams in this class. But it was just proven by Justin Fields that you don't have to be a good NFL quarterback to be a great fantasy quarterback. And maybe just as important, he not only produced well in fantasy, but he was also valued very highly by the Dynasty community. So like in 2021, when Fields was drafted, he was going as the approximately 402 in startups. And then in 2023, last year, he was being taken at the back end of the first round of startups. So we're talking about a dramatic rise in value. And I think Daniels could potentially do the same thing, even if he's not as good of a passer as he showed in his final year at LSU. If he just doesn't live up to the hype as a pocket passer, as long as he can provide that rushing ability, which we know he has that same upside and potential for crazy value insulation and rise that we saw from Justin Fields.
No, I absolutely agree. I think that he's one of those guys who's going to end up moving up our rankings. I don't think he's going to stay down here in tier 5 for sure, but, time's going to tell. What do you think about the next prospect here, especially given, I guess, some of the recent news we've gotten around him?
I'm not as worried about the news that's been floating around. We're talking about Drake Maye.
Mm-hmm.
Drake Maye is the guy in reference here. I'm willing to put him at the top of the next tier group. This is tier 6, in there with the likes of Prescott, Goff, and Tua. Again, I just mentioned with Jayden Daniels that I'm concerned about all these quarterbacks that aren't named Caleb Williams. And it's not the most encouraging landing spot either when we're talking about New England. Now, they did just add 2 rookie wide receivers that I believe in. They have Demario Douglas, who I actually am fairly high on. But none of those guys are going to be immediate number ones, needle movers that make me feel confident about a starting quarterback. We got a whole new coaching staff. Mm-hmm. Everything's changing in New England, so there's a lot of moving pieces to worry about. But we've known for a year, maybe even more at this point, that Drake Maye is plenty talented. He has all of the physical capabilities to get it done. We know that he can be inconsistent at times, and so it's going to be a bumpy ride for him in his rookie campaign, which is why we have him down here below the Jayden Daniels tier. But in terms of his upside, I think that he could have a very long and successful career if surrounded with the right talent, but we just have to wait for that to happen.
Yeah, I got a good feeling that like after this season, maybe even after next season, Drake may be a really good buy just for a little while,
Hmm.
but then, once he does hit his stride and this team does find its identity, like you said, I think he can find a lot of his footing there.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. In terms of year one potential, what's your take on, again, a lot of inconsistency, a lot of moving pieces, but what do you expect to see early on?
I mean, being honest, I expect to see him struggle a little bit early on. I think this
Yeah.
team, it's tough to say because it's really just a whole new situation. They
Yeah.
really could come
Yeah.
out the gate swinging. They could come out doing stuff we've never seen before, or they could come out and just struggle immensely. I think it's going to be somewhere in between. I think it's going to just like you said, it's going to be a bumpy road. I think Drake May is going to learn a lot. I think he's going to have to learn a lot. I think things in this game are going to have to improve, but I think they're going to give him the time to do it. Obviously, they gave him that draft capital. I don't like seeing coaching staffs kind of speak negatively towards stuff like that, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's a new coaching staff too, so I'm sure they've got a lot they've got to learn too when it comes to speaking to the media and how to, handle players. But it's
Yeah.
just it's weird for me. It's weird for me. He's someone I could see falling through the tiers, but I see him also upswinging later in his career as well. Something like a Jared Goff type career, but like obviously Jared Goff kind of had a better start to his career first year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that that's a great point. I think that there will be a buy window for him next year, next offseason, whatever the case may be. This is kind of a middle ground for Drake May where we're currently ranking him, where, yeah, I expect him to probably drop when people see him struggle early on, but then he'll bounce right back up, if not even slightly above this, this time next year or the year following. So you're going to have to be patient on this ride with Drake May, but I think it probably will pay off.
Absolutely. And taking a look at the next quarterback prospect we got here, we actually don't have to go too far. Obviously, we got J.J. McCarthy, who was selected by the Minnesota Vikings, 10th overall, correct? 10th overall?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
we have him at the back end of the sixth tier. So he's going to be in that same tier with Drake May. He's someone I could see possibly moving up a little bit. I got a feeling most of his career he's going to stay around this spot. But what do you think about J.J. McCarthy in this spot right here?
I think it's a good spot for him.
Yeah.
Obviously, the situation in Minnesota is fantastic. He gets
Yes.
paired with the best wide receiver in football. He gets paired with a great wide receiver too in Jordan Addison. He gets TJ Hawkinson once he comes back and healthy. Pretty good offensive line and like hand in glove fit in terms of coaching staff with Kevin O'Connell. I think he's the type of quarterback that's going to be able to thrive in that environment. Not that there wouldn't be, not that there would be that many that wouldn't, because I think he's a great head coach, but. Um, I think something that we also have to take into consideration, which, some people are going to disagree on about whether it should impact fantasy value as much as I might think it does, but we saw in the lead up to the NFL draft and like on draft night, the Minnesota Vikings were willing to offload 2 first round picks plus to go up and get Drake May, which didn't end up happening. And so they stayed put. I mean, I guess they traded up 1 pick, but like a difference of 2 first round picks in value for the guy they wanted versus the guy they got. Like, there's a reason why JJ McCarthy should be valued a little bit later, even if the situation is good.
Yeah, because he's just somebody that we're not really certain if he's going to pan out or how really good he is at football. Now, we know he's good at winning football just because he played on a winning team in college, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't know how much that really translates over at the NFL level. Obviously, with Bryce Young, he had his struggles and, he was a winner his entire life. So
Yeah.
that doesn't really amount to too much. Like you said, the situation is great for JJ McCarthy, and it's not that I don't believe in JJ McCarthy. It's just I really need to see something out of him. And like you said, also with the talent around him, they also brought in Aaron Jones, and they brought him in on a
Mm-hmm.
1 year. So I don't think they brought him in to not use him a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of burn. I think they're going to probably ride Aaron Jones a good bit while they figure out what JJ McCarthy can do. But with that
Yeah.
being said, if he does end up being competent, Aaron Jones adds to that receiving game as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's tough. Like you said, the situation's bomb. It's dynamite for him, but what can he do? That's what we got to see. That's why he's down here in this tier.
And that's a really good point that I forgot to bring up with Drake May also. It's possible that both of these guys don't begin the season as the starter. Jacoby Brissett could be the starter in New England. Sam Darnold could be the starter in Minnesota for the first few games of the season, whatever it may be. But both of these teams have put that out there to the media that there's a potential that these guys aren't going to be ready at the beginning of the season, and that's something that we have to take into account for sure.
Yeah, and especially looking at Drake Maye, he probably might not play at the beginning of the season, man, based on just the reports we've seen. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true.
And moving to the next one, we got Mr. Bo Nix, picked 12th overall by the Denver Broncos. Where do we have him at in this tier list?
So he's going to find himself one tier below the guys that we just talked about in here with Will Levis and with Bryce Young. I have him smack dab in the middle between the two of them.
Gotcha. I like that spot for him, but what's the reasoning for him there with these two guys?
Yeah, this is kind of the young aspiring quarterback category. All of these guys were highly touted at one point or another in their career, and find themselves in kind of questionable situations. Obviously, they have the upside, but there's also a pretty low floor in all of these cases. Bo Nix specifically, he got drafted a lot higher than I think we expected him to. And he goes to a situation where I do anticipate he's going to be the starter right away. Of the quarterbacks in this range, I think he's one of the most pro-ready in terms of his ability to take on, an NFL playbook and be ready week one to produce. Sean Payton, I don't know how much I still believe in what his offenses can do, but we've seen him take guys with, Drew Brees was really accurate, didn't have like the most physical capability or arm talent, and he got a ton out of him. Bo Nix is in a similar category. I'm not calling him Drew Brees by any means, but physically. But the supporting cast is also questionable at this point with Jerry Jeudy leaving and with a lot of turnover over there. So I think that having him all the way down here in the tier 7, I think that bakes in enough of the risk, but also kind of quantifies some of the upside as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like him in this spot with these guys because I feel like with these guys, like you said, it's kind of the young aspiring group that kind of has to take that next step up. You know what I mean? Like seeing Will Levis, we'd really like to see him take that step up, but he also has a pretty questionable cast around him. Bryce Young, obviously, they're building stuff over there, but hopefully they can get things to a better spot for him, which it looks like they're doing now. So I like that spot for him. I think this makes sense for Bo Nix right here.
Okay, I like it. In terms of how do you value him? Because I said right in the middle between these two guys. Do you agree, disagree? Would you take Levis, Bryce Young over him? What are your thoughts there?
I mean, you already know I got my biases here, but at the same time, I feel like this is a good spot for him. I think that something that Will Levis kind of gets downplayed a lot is his mobility as well. I think him and Bo Nix are both guys who are pretty athletic, sneaky athletic, you know what I'm saying, real lunch pail guys. But they're a lot faster and athletic and have more rushing tendencies than people give them credit for. And, they're good at it. So I think those two are pretty evenly valued. And with Bryce Young, it's like you said, I really got to see him take another step forward before I'm ready to take one of these two guys, behind him.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And then taking a look at the last quarterback prospect, we got the surprise first-round pick, draft 8th overall, higher than the last two guys we just talked about. We got Michael Penix, who went to the Atlanta Falcons, who's going to be sitting behind Kirk Cousins for however long, who's also in this tier list, by the way, in tier 8. We've got Michael Penix going right here in tier 9 behind Deshaun Watson. Shout out to the guys who are starting quarterbacks who did not make this tier list, Daniel Jones. But with Michael Penix in this spot right here, it provides a safety blanket. It provides that spot where if Kirk Cousins somehow, isn't able to come back at full strength, isn't able to compete at a high level, which training camp hasn't really indicated yet, but, we'll see going forward because an Achilles tear is pretty serious at the end of the day. But I don't know. I feel like Michael Penix is in a spot where he's behind a guy who got injured last year who is getting older but isn't quite old yet. Kirk Cousins is 35, 36 years old in that range, so he still wants to play for a few more years. Michael Penix has an opportunity to play because Kirk Cousins did open the door with that injury last year. Prior years, he didn't really get injured a whole lot, so this is really new for Kirk Cousins too, I believe. But I don't know exactly what to think about Michael Penix, but at the same time, he's someone who could potentially get valuable playing time in the next couple of years. But what do you think about Michael Penix? Because this is an interesting one right here.
It's very interesting. This is an obligatory ranking for me.
Yeah.
Like, people are all over the place on their feelings of Michael Penix, the player, on their feeling of where he got drafted, the team he got drafted to, and as it should be. It's crazy. Um, he's a quarterback taken in the top 10 of the NFL draft to a team that I think has a good supporting cast. So he deserves, as a young quarterback in that situation, to be ranked, within the relevant quarterbacks in the dynasty landscape. I don't think he's all that good. I don't think certainly he's not better than Kirk Cousins right now. This
Hmm.
team seems to be in a position where they want to win now. They're in one of the worst divisions in football, if not the worst division in football. So it doesn't make sense why they wouldn't try to compete right away and take the guy that is the best. So Kirk should be the guy for the remainder of his contract, or at least the remainder of his guaranteed money, which I think is what, 3 years from now?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, because
Pretty
it's a
sure.
4 year. It's a 4 year contract, so 3 years from now should be pretty much done.
So we're talking about a guy that might not play for another 3 years unless there's another injury or something like that. I have a hard time seeing him beat out Kirk Cousins for the job within that time frame. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too low on Michael Penix, but it's obligatory. I have to be positive enough based on the draft capital to put him here, but I don't want to put him here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's also one of those guys. I feel like if we didn't put him on this list, the comments would have eaten us alive.
Yeah.
It's I've seen so many takes on Michael Penix from he's not going to play to he's going to be the next Michael Vick for Atlanta, which I don't
What are we
even
talking about?
I don't even want to get into it. But at the same time, like you said, at eighth overall, we can't ignore the guy. We can't just shove
Yeah.
him to the side and say he doesn't matter because they picked him with the eighth overall pick. So Michael Penix is here. Anybody who's upset about it, if you think he should be higher, let us know in the comments below. What do
Yeah.
you see in this situation with Michael Penix that he should be so high? Please let us know. No hostility. I really just want to know what the reasoning is. So let us know in the comments down below what you think about Michael Penix and his situation. But I think that's really just about all we've got on that one right there. What do you think, Eric?
I got one more thing. One
Okay.
more thing to say is that I brought this up in another video. I feel like some people are going to call us short-sighted. Some people are going to say you're playing Dynasty. This is a long-term game. Have faith in a guy that was drafted highly that's going to end up on a good team. I understand what you're saying. But you have to realize how the market moves in Dynasty is not long-term. People react so quickly. When he's not starting next year, when he's not starting the year after that, he's going to plummet down the rankings. And also, again, maybe I'm wrong about your group of friends, but the vast majority of dynasty leagues don't make it past 3 years. So you're talking about a guy that might not even hit your starting roster in the time that your dynasty league is going on. I don't know. I have a real hard time taking somebody that's going to take that long to pay off for me is all.
Yeah, it's a little insane to be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan in having depreciating assets like this and having someone
Yeah.
who possibly could pop off, for the
Trade for
capital that
him
he was
later.
taking at. Yeah. Trade for him later
Trade
when he's
for him
cheap.
later if you really believe.
When he's cheap.
Exactly.
He'll be dirt cheap, I promise you. Give it 6 months, I promise. He will be so
Yeah,
cheap.
exactly.
But with that being said, that's going to wrap up our tier list. Like I said, if you guys have questions about the actual tier list itself too, let us know and we can make a video about it and just explain this whole thing as well too. We'll leave it just like this, talk you right through it. But yeah, let us know in the comments down below if you want that. And make sure you guys do all that great YouTube stuff that Eric said at the beginning. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you know when we drop all of our latest videos. Hit that like button. It's absolutely free and it's the best way to get our stuff out there into the YouTube algorithm. And also, let us know in the comments down below what you thought about the video, what you thought about this tier list, what you think about Michael Penix and his situation. Sound off down below. Eric, you got anything else for the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, if y'all could do us a favor and just check some of the links that we have down in the description below, especially to our Discord. If the comment section isn't good enough for you, which for some people it isn't, I know we're going to have some deep conversations about this list. Join us in the Discord. Talk to us, talk to some of the community that we've been building over there. Great group of people talking Dynasty every single day, so we would love to have you. And also check out some of our partners, whether it be Do Numbers, if you're interested in some cool apparel, t-shirts, hats, hoodies, anything like that. And also Choice Music Group, putting out great music every single week. And as always, we we close out our videos with a little sample from Choice Music Group, so make sure to check that out as well. But yeah, if you guys stuck with us all the way until the end, as always, we love you, and we will catch you in the next video. Peace.
Peace.